This will make millionaires, but you have to understand how this is going to play out. In today's video, I'm going to break down the big, better bill that passed. The Genius Act has passed. By September, we're going to have clear rules of the road for cryptocurrency. I've been preparing people for this moment since 2020. What's more important than ever is for you to understand four things. Remember, cash is trash. The big better bill is about to turn this printing machine on full blast. And I'm going to give you some insight on why central banks are stacking gold. And now the elites are stacking Bitcoin. It used to be whoever held the gold ran the world. Now it's whoever holds the Bitcoin will control the world. So I'm going to break down why XRP, Bitcoin are my two top holdings. And on the back end of the video, I'm going to share with you my exact pattern. But I encourage you to stop scrolling mindlessly and spend at least 20 to 30, maybe even an hour a day studying micro and macroeconomics. The video I'm going to show you at the end with Ray Dalio, I hope that you make it to that video because that one will be a longer one, but that will be the most important video because it'll really drive home why I build my ecosystem the way that I do. There is no get rich quick. Get out of the meme coin casino. Get out of trying to get rich quick because a lot of people are going to make a lot of money in this crypto bull run and the bull run next 4 years. And they're going to lose it all because they're indoctrinated into a system to buy stuff to impress people they don't even like. And what happens is that money that you get paid in is someone else's debt. So I'm going to teach you how to transmute that into cash flow, deflationary assets, protection, and how I use leverage to build a legacy for my family. All right, so let's dive right in. The first thing is breaking the U.S. House passed President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. What you should understand if you're an investor is this is about to skyrocket your assets. Trump wants a weaker dollar. Okay. Yes, this is going to put a lot of money back in your pockets. You're going to pay way less taxes. Gas prices are going to be lower. No tax on tips. You're going to feel a lot wealthier. But remember, that wealth sitting in your bank account, that extra income is just someone else's debt. We're at 120% debt to income ratio. There's more debt than there is income. And the reason why they're turning this printing machine on full blast in a low interest rate environment is because they're transitioning their families. The elites are getting into deflationary assets. So things like real estate, gold, silver, Bitcoin, XRP, things that have fixed supplies are going to be some of those valuable assets in the world. Okay. Now we're going to watch this video for about a minute, up to about a minute 40. So this is Bo Hines. He says the crypto industry will probably go to 15 to 20 trillion after stablecoin legislation becomes law. We're at 3 trillion right now, guys. Think about how much wealth is going to come into these markets.
Bo, it's great to have you here. I really appreciate not just you taking time out of your very busy day at the White House here at the Bitcoin conference, but to spend a few minutes with us. We really appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
So just to be clear, he is, you can see it right here. He's the executive director for President Trump on digital assets.
Fred, it's a pleasure to be here.
You're doing all this great work for the industry. I know you guys have the Stablecoin, the Genius Act teed up, ready to go. What do you think the impact of that is going to be?
It's really monumental. First and foremost, I don't think it should be lost on anybody. We haven't had bipartisan legislation move out of Senate banking and actually get passed since 2018. I think our Democratic colleagues certainly understand that the United States needs to lead the charge in terms of updating our current financial systems. I've said repeatedly throughout this conference, everything else has evolved, right? The ways in which we communicate, the technology that we use, the ways in which we move money really hasn't. And I think that's shocking to a lot of people. But what Genius does, it permits instant settlement times, more cost-effective payments, more transparency. It secures U.S. dollar global dominance for decades to come. And, this should be the least partisan piece of legislation that ever moves through Congress. So, we feel very optimistic about where things stand. I think we picked up some 15 Democrats on the cloture vote Hopefully next week we'll get this thing passed. We'll move it to the House and put it on the president's desk to be signed. The capital injection that goes into the digital assets
Listen.
ecosystem as a result of stables is enormous. I think that you're looking at probably an industry going to 15, 20 trillion dollars, because what this does is it establishes really the foundation for all the exciting things that we've dreamed of. Tokenized public securities, 24/7 markets. If you want to access U.S. capital markets, you're going to have to use a dollar-backed stable. And this is what positions the United States to be the global leader. And in reality, we should be pushing this change. We should be at the forefront of adoption of digital asset financial technology and really leading the charge globally in that. It'll protect the U.S. economy. It'll certainly create innovation here in the United States, and that's something that we should all be excited about.
That's great. Obviously, anything that helps the price of Bitcoin helps all of us in the Bitcoin industry.
Well, that's right. I think that too, with this capital injection, being able to move in and out of different asset classes at will, naturally, Bitcoiners will benefit from that. People will be purchasing Bitcoin in large amounts, as they should. We've talked about repeatedly that we view Bitcoin as digital gold for all the reasons that we've laid out over the course of the past week, and moreover, really over the course of the past few months. It's commodity, not a security, intrinsic stored value, finite. All the things we look for on the decentralization side. David likes to say that Bitcoin has the immaculate conception. I get asked all the time too, as we set up the strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's like, how much Bitcoin do you want? And I think that's a very silly question that journalists ask. We want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly accumulate.
Okay. So this is the executive director for digital assets. We want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as we can. Silly question. We want to accumulate okay. Guys, it's here. It's here. You have to get over this fear of, is this going to be here? The Genius Act passed. It's passed. Okay. They're now working on clear rules of the road for banks. Okay. This is what's about to happen. M2 money supply is going to go nuts in America. They are going to print. Now, why are they willing to do that, guys? Because now 95% of the Bitcoin is gone. 95% of the population doesn't have exposure to crypto. So who owns the Bitcoin, guys? Think about it. Xrp is going to change the financial system. Ripple will become a bank. Okay. My top 3 holdings are XRP, Bitcoin, Solana. My next in line would be XLM, and then it's HBAR and VeChain. Those are my top 6. And I have many others, like people, I have Cardano. We have, I don't want to miss any out there. I know people are like, oh, what about this one? What about this one? Those are my top 6 I just told you, okay? I have a I'm maturing my portfolio as I grow in my wisdom around wealth, right? I don't need 50 cryptos. I don't need to jump in and out of meme coins. That's not how wealth is built. It's built consistent, it's built foundational, and it's built on things that will be here. Okay, so now this is Ray Dalio, one of my favorite economists, okay? So I know this is going to be a long video. Okay, remember what we just talked about. He signed the Big Better Bill. America's buried in debt, okay? Listen to what he says, what happens in the monetary system and how government's debt reduces your buying power. Okay, your dollar is going to be worthless. Pay attention.
It's an important principle to keep in mind when thinking about large government debts and deficits, such as those that we have and that are coming, is when countries have too much debt, lowering interest rates and devaluing the currency that the debt is denominated in is the preferred path government policymakers are likely to take, so it pays to bet on that happening. That means betting on a weaker currency and lower real interest rates are the best path. And the reason governments prefer to take that is that the reduction in the value of money and your currency is a very hidden way of reducing wealth. That's because you measure everything in your currency. You say other things are going up and down. So when your currency goes down, it makes it look like other things are going up. And so it's a hidden way of dealing with that situation. It, of course, makes one's goods in markets cheaper, and it's stimulative when you lower interest rates. But the problem of that is that it greatly reduces the buying power because the value of your currency is less. So that wealth shrinkage does not come across as much of a risk. In either case, I'm saying the circumstances favor devaluing the currency and lowering interest rates as a means of offsetting the debt problem. Should be existing instead is coming closer to balancing the budget and not paying it off in devalued money.
Crazy.
The most important principle to keep.
Now, let's talk about that. So what he is saying is about to happen. Ray Dalio's been predicting this for a long time. Robert Kiyosaki in 2013 wrote about this, okay? It's here now. We caught the ball, guys. This is very serious. We actually caught the ball, okay? This isn't our grandparents' economy. This is not our parents' economy, okay? You can't take advice from your grandparents and parents at this point. This is not their economy. This is not a low, this is going to be a low interest rate environment, and an M2 money supply just, they're going to make this thing burr, the printing machine. The problem is we have more debt than we have income, and every single dollar you get paid in someone else's debt. And the only way they can survive this is monetized debt. So you have to transition yourself onto the right side of the leverage side, okay? You're storing a bunch of cash, and it's trash. When they turn this printing machine on and the interest rates go down, your 300,000 just gets less value. It's worth less. It's worthless. It keeps going down. So there's things that you can do and things that we have done. I transmute my cash. I do 4 things. Cash flow, okay, to create more cash. And then I move it into number 2, deflationary assets that are opposite of the US dollar. Okay, that's why the third wealthiest man in Mexico said he's 70% in Bitcoin, and he said he's thinking about going all in on Bitcoin. That's why some of the wealthiest people in the world are going all in on Bitcoin. Why? Because it's deflationary. It has a fixed supply. It can't be printed. Okay. It is very scarce. There's only 5% left. I'm using it as purely a store of value. Yeah, it's not going to go up as much as XRP, HBAR, all these other things. I'm not using that as a huge price appreciation. I'm using it as a hedge against the inflationary dollar. So I'm taking my cash that I get paid from my companies and my cash generating dividends, and I'm transmuting it into a deflationary asset, Bitcoin, and storing my wealth in Bitcoin. So my savings account over here has 2 components to it, which is number 4, which I'll go into in a second. My savings account over here is growing 50% every single year, but it's also creating a bank for myself. I can leverage against my Bitcoin to beat the hurdle rate and buy cash generating assets. So this is my family legacy, leverage, and holding like gold. Okay. It's not, XRP, I'm going to get a way bigger price appreciation off it, but that's not what we're talking about. There's different components in my strategy. Okay. Then I also use XRP, which is deflationary. I'm a huge fan of XRP. It's my number 1 holding. I understand XRP. Okay. I stick with things I understand. XRP is my number 1 holding. Bitcoin's number 2. Solana's number 3. XLM, HBAR, VeChain. Those are my top 6. Okay. Breaking down everything that I do. From there, we talk about protection. Okay. So when I get paid cash, I'm not storing it in my bank account above my debts and non-negotiables. I pay my bills, I get everything paid, and then I move it into cash value life insurance, a supercharged savings, and Bitcoin and XRP. Those are where I hold my wealth. That's what I choose to do. You can use gold, you can use silver, you can do real estate. Insurance is my number 1 safest storage component. Okay. They need to be funded properly and structured properly. These are powerful, powerful tools that the wealthy use to create family banks. So now you see what I'm creating here? I got cash flow. I get paid. I move my cash into deflationary assets, okay, that are our fixed supply. I also buy cash generating dividends that create more cash flow. But when I get paid that cash, I just got paid my dividends from 2 of my dividends. They just hit it's hitting my account today. I will transmute 70% into Bitcoin, 30% into XRP after I pay 30% in taxes. That's earned income. I'm constantly transmuting my money into something that holds value or grows in value over time. Okay. Or it's going to pay me. That's richest man in Babylon. So then we have the leverage component, which is number 4. That's my ecosystem. 4 is leverage. Okay. I have a cash value life insurance bank. My kids have policies. I have policies. My daughter's 21. She's already an investor. She's already learning how to create cash flow. She has her own policy. She created her own family bank. My son has a policy. He's 9 years old. All my ecosystem has policies. Okay. So every month I pump money into the premiums. When the bull run hits, boom, my crypto goes parabolic. I'm holding Bitcoin forever. So let's put Bitcoin off to the side, or explain to you what that is. Altcoins, all other crypto, to include my XRP, I'm exiting 50% on the way up. The reason why is people are like, well, you're paying long-term capital gains. If some of you are paying short-term, I'll be paying long-term capital gains, because every single dime has a home. First, max funding my policy. Well, you paid short long-term capital gains, right? But as I max fund those policies on this side, I'm also creating legacy and family bank, and I can borrow at 5% from that asset, beating the hurdle rate over here and getting cash generating dividends or businesses, and then putting it back into the deflationary asset when it goes back down in the bear market. Okay. It's all interpersonal. So for when people are coming on and saying, well, why do you do this? You have to really figure out what works for you. Some people are holding forever and just going to leverage against it. Some people are just in crypto and hoping that it's going to go up and, it's going to save them. But I like to be diversified. I like to follow King Solomon's wisdom. I like to follow richest man in Babylon. Rule number 1, don't lose money, Warren Buffett. Rule number 2, follow rule number 1. So everybody's different. Everybody's unique. Right. So I'm now getting into real estate. So I'm in the process of starting to get rental properties, and that's purely for tax depreciation. Depreciation. So for taxes, the doors, it's crazy right now with real estate. Like we're working to buy a rental property, and it's like, you can't even, in Arizona, you can't even buy a property, get enough for the rent. It's a really backwards economy right now. But I'm learning that real estate is the greatest way to get is it liabilities? Depreciation, to get money off your earned income. And so that's going to help me the next thing. So when I learn about that, and I gain some little bit of expertise on that, I'll bring that back and share with you guys. So that's the next component for me, because my wealth paradigm has changed from 2020 2025. I make a lot more money than I did in 2020. Each year my wealth continues to go up. And so what I'm always working to do is I'm always working to take my money, and I'm working to create cash flow into deflationary assets that appreciate. Portion is protected, and then I use leverage to repeat and rinse the cycle. Does that make sense? I'm not borrowing to buy things that make my family, that take away from my future family. I'm using leverage to add to my family's future. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to get a wake boat next year. I could have got it in 2021. I could have got it in 2022. I could have got it in 2023. I could have got it in 2024. But think about that. The wake boat that I want is about $150,000. Okay. That's a want. I want it. I really wanted it. So we rented boats during the summer, returned it back until I can use cash, put it into a life insurance policy, borrow from the life insurance policy, put it into a cash generating dividend, let the dividend pay off the boat. And then as soon as the dividend or the boat is paid off, I now have a cash generating dividend, and I leveraged it 5% to buy the dividend, or leveraged it 5% to buy the asset that pays for the liability. You don't borrow to take away from your future family. Okay. My vehicles are through my companies. So everything we do is to add to our family's wealth. And I just want to continue to drill that home, because I'm speaking from experience. I've lived both lifestyles. I was an executive at a bank, and from banker to executive, my income went up dramatically, but I never made more money. I was making $30,000 as a banker, at an apartment in a 1997 Honda Civic. By the time I became an executive, I had a house with a 15,000 square foot lot, 3,000 square foot home, close to a golf course. I had the 2 cars in the garage, 2 car payments. We were going on vacations. We had maxed out credit cards. I wasn't educated enough in understanding. I was indoctrinated. So I never made more money. I had more stuff. The new me that finally grew up and figured this out and started studying the wisdom of wealth from 2020, I changed everything. As my cash flow and my income increased, so first my assets increased. I took profit from my assets. I created cash flow. I just followed richest man in Babylon. I took I took more than 10%, but say I took 10%, boom, put it here to multiply it. Once it multiplied, I put it back into assets that went up, boom, multiplied. As my income went up, I didn't increase my lifestyle. I have a very, very, what do you call it? This almost the same lifestyle as I did in 2020, 2021. I got an apartment, then I bought a little single family home, right? So when you see my lifestyle change, that means the assets are paying for the liability. And for all of us, that just takes discipline, because you're going to get, this is what I mean. People are going to be millionaires in cryptos, but a lot of people are going to lose it. We saw a ton of people get really wealthy in bull run 2021 to 2022. They bought Lambos, Ferraris, watches, and then they struggled to keep all that, facade going up and during the bear market. And then they start shilling a bunch of stuff again, and then they do it again. That's not how wealth is built. Freedom is cash flow. Freedom is equity. Freedom is leverage. Freedom is never have to work for money again within the next 9 years. That's my goal. When I'm 59 years old, I'm 49 right now. I always have a goal, 59 transition to 60. I'll never have to work for money ever again. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Any resources you need, we have everything for you here. I have a free section on my YouTube channel that says I go through all this stuff in detail. We also have the Warrior Academy. We've helped 11,500 amazing warriors understand these ecosystems. I break everything down. I also talk about it on my channel for free. But if you want the whole structure and things like that, I don't give you a fish. I show you exactly how to fish, and I show you exactly what I do in my academy. Let's see what else. We have our Freedom Insurance. I'm the co-founder and owner of Freedom Insurance LLC. We teach people about cash value life insurance and how to properly structure them, and how to properly fund them, and how we actually use them to build wealth and legacy for our family. And that is a free consultation in the description of this video or in my social media platform. And then I'm also the owner of Merlin's Smartest Way to Track Your Crypto. If you need help setting up an exit plan, please, down below, you can sign up for 30 days for free. Go to Get Started, and we'll help you set up an exit plan. We also have customer service that will actually call you and help you set it up, because the bull run is here, and that's in my bio as well. So I have all the resources that you need. So everything I talk about is something I own or I use myself. Warriors, let's get your shit together. Love you guys.